Welcome to the Don't Die Rusty podcast. I'm Rick Hanson, and we will be talking about living, not dying. We're all in this adventure together, and we will be interviewing people who inspire us to live our best lives. People with various backgrounds who will walk us down the trails they took to not die rusty. Adventure in life are many things to many people. It could be a sprint or an endurance race, but with each adventure, we become a better version of us. We hope you keep chasing those dreams, being the best you, and of course, don't die rusty. Well, hello, Don't Die Rusty Nation. Holy moly, it's going to be a wonderful night here tonight because this is Rick Hanson, and I have Kelley Lovelace, one of the members of the Ricktastic, and I thought, you know what, I want to do a podcast episode just with Kelley. I'm being selfish here, but and it's interesting, Kelley. You are a very requested guy to have on. I've got text and that said, let's have a little more Kelley. I'm feeling, luckily I don't have an ego, so I understand why they would want to hear you and not me or anybody else for that matter.
I don't understand that little. You can get way too much of Kelly and get sick of it. So, but
Well,
whatever it is, we'll just keep going with it.
well, it is wonderful to, it is truly wonderful to have a guest that everybody seems to connect with, and you have such words of wisdom that strike me and others, because sometimes you wonder if it hits others with what we do here, and it does. I sent you those texts from people, so I'm not lying, am I? You're a pastor,
No,
and I'm not lying. We talked about the
you're.
10 Commandments in the Ricktastics episode there.
That's right. That's right. No.
But you know what? Last week, I want to tell the listeners. Last week, I text you and I said, "Hey, let's do an episode. I just want to do an episode with you." And then we talked on the phone, and I said, let's talk about this and that. And then we decided to do, because I did the one episode of getting the funk out, and then we thought, you know what, let's do that together. Let's
Yeah.
get the funk out.
Yeah. Let's get
So
it out. Just get all the funk out. The funky.
yes, So, but it's been one of those winters. I don't know about up there, but here has been one of those winters that it's just drug on and on for some reason, and I have no reason why, because usually I try to have a good attitude most of the time, and I do put that, we all talk about how bad things happen to people, and they always were upbeat, and they're always this and that, and then they either do something stupid or and I'm talking about suicide or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
You see people like that, and or something else happens, and I'm not that person, I'll tell you that, but because I try to get the positive out every day.
Mm-hmm.
But I was feeling lethargic. I was feeling not Rick. I was feeling drugged down, mentally and physically. It was just not me. When you can reach into yourself and you say, look at yourself and you can say, what is going on with you? So I've had a physical, and I'm in the good ranges of most everything. I'm going to actually go see a functional doctor just to see about some other stuff. I think you need to get to the root of the problem sometimes. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think we all treat the symptoms,
Yeah.
and I don't want, and we can get into, I mean, this is going to be far ranging because it's you and I, but I don't want to just treat the symptoms. I'm going to treat the root of things. And that's where we're going to get with some of this funky stuff, because it's amazing when you do a episode and then you start realizing how to get your funk out, and where you are. Then the best news of the world, not really the best news of the world, but I went into the eye doctor last Friday, and I'm going to be 57 here in on March 22nd, and I have better than 20/20 vision.
That's pretty sweet.
So
Yeah.
hopefully I have something that walks in front of me and I know I can see it.
Yes. Hopefully.
And I'm talking in the fall. But anyway,
Yeah.
here's where I want to go with this stuff. And we will go in so many different directions, I know. But I'm reading a book now. It's called, and you'll laugh at who wrote this book, but it's actually Rick Hanson. He has a PhD, and it's called Hardwired Happiness. And what he was talking about, I'm going to go more into the mental aspect right at the moment. What he was talking about is we as humans naturally go to the negative side of everything, and it takes a lot of conditioning to see the good stuff, the like the positive stuff, because he mentioned like Superman. He said we could put this in superhero sense. Superman could do something really, really bad, and people would remember it forever. And we'll just take the Joker. I was just thinking of a villain. The villain, the Joker, could do something really, really, really good, and nobody'd remember that because he was always the villain. But they'll always remember the good guy doing the bad thing, but not the bad guy doing the good thing. And I was thinking about that, and that's kind of where we are as humans too, most of the time, because we go to the dark side of things more than we go to the good side of things, unless with you here, and this is what we can talk about too, but I was talking to somebody about horror movies or something, and I don't watch them. The scariest movie to me, actually, it was Cindy's daughter. I said the scariest movie to me ever, or that I ever watched, was The Omens. And you know
Yep.
why? It was scary, but you know what? I wasn't so scared because I knew I believed.
Right.
So
Yep.
you can go onto this, you can go wherever you want to with this, but then I started looking within myself, and I started realizing that I was comparing myself to the 25, 30-year-old Rick. And in what I'm saying is, we talked about this earlier, is like I'm getting older and I don't realize that I can still do things. I just am not the 25, 30-year-old Rick body wise, in the aspect to, I just am not that person anymore. And I think that was getting me down. Wasn't getting my mental break of climbing a mountain because of the snow and the cold and just being lazy, probably. And I've started doing that. Yeah, climbed Bear Butte on Saturday morning, and what a wonderful morning it was. The views were amazing. And you just have to realize, because I just had a episode with Lindsay Ulrich, and she had a stroke, and the doctors told her she would never run again. And now and she loved running, and she's an ultra marathoner. And where I'm going with this is, when you start realizing what you love and that you have a passion for, or you can do these things, by getting into these funky things, you're bringing only yourself down, and maybe some of the people around you. And I think also, you being in your position, I didn't feel like I was helping people. And I think that fills your soul too.
I think that when we're in these moments, and I have them, like it, my wife makes fun of me because usually it's like the end of January until March Madness starts. I'm kind of in a little bit of a funk myself,
Yep.
and it's every year. Um, uh, I, I guess it's because all the hunting's done by the end of January, and now what do we do? It's the cold months. You're not wanting to be outside in negative 40-degree weather.
Mm-mm.
Um, you're tired of moving snow. This year for us, it hasn't been that bad, and we've had some nice days. Um, so this is one of my, I guess, better periods of time. Um, my youngest son is his senior in high school, and he's finishing up basketball, so that gets us out of the house a little bit more. Um, I about 3 weeks ago started working out again, which was, I don't know if that was smart. My body's telling me it's not, but my brain's telling me it is. One of those things, you know. Um, and so I just feel like that's probably helped me as I'm dealing with my own funk. But I do believe it's a mental state that we can find ourselves in if we're not careful about it, you know, and looking at the bigger picture instead of the ho hums. Like we get down into the, oh man, another day of this. This is awful. And there's just there truly is something about sunlight and being out in the sun versus this cloudy, wintry, blustery mess that we find ourselves in. And it just kind of, after a while, it does wear on you. Um, Connection, I think, is important for us. And I don't know about you, Rick, but if I'm not careful when I get into my funk, I start to separate myself, start to kind of step back away from people. Um, and that's not my norm because I am a person who likes to be around others and spend time with them and get to know them and hang out and talk. I kind of feed off of that energy. That's kind of what makes me an extrovert, is that I'm feeding off the energy of others around me. And when I isolate myself, that's outside of my norm. And so it drains me and it makes it worse. So once I start to understand those things about myself, then I can begin to change that, and it helps a lot. Um, and then just my outlook and attitude on life as a believer. My hope's not wrapped up in my job. My hope's not wrapped up in my bank account. I've got hope in Jesus, and He's the one who tells me that, hey man, I've got you. I got your back. You're good. Just keep doing what you're doing. And so that those kind of things do help as we're dealing with the funkiness of of this time of year.
Yeah, and it it's crazy because I was really, I don't know if it even started. I think it probably started before, like we talked earlier. I think it started before we went to Alaska for Christmas. But where I'm going with this is, I finally started looking at stuff, and you were talking about believing, and you know what? You know what it makes me feel good is to know that I realize when you realize that you have that hope and belief behind you. I shouldn't say behind you, but beside you, around you, surrounding you.
Yeah.
Um, that starts picking you up a little bit.
Hmm.
I'm going to say that I learned. This is funny. Like I told Cindy on Monday. I think it was Monday. It had to be Monday. I was out for my morning walk, and I started running. And Rick hasn't ran like that for a bit. And I said, because I'm not going to be that. Used to be fast when I was young, and now I'm not so young anymore. But it felt good to like exert myself a little more than I normally would and
Yeah.
not hurt. And then I came back, and I think confidence starts coming, feeling. I think for me, it was I started losing a little confidence in myself. That's why I was also getting into a funk. Like,
Yeah.
am I saying the right things? Am I doing the right things? I was even questioning the podcast in itself because
Yeah.
is this worth what I want? Is it worth it to do this stuff? Because everybody can listen. We don't have any advertisers. I would love some, but we don't have any advertisers.
Right.
And it's work to do actually, but I enjoy this stuff so much. And then as I question myself, I have 3 wonderful conversations, and then I know why I do this.
Yeah.
And it picked me up. And and then it's one of those things. Ricky's busy at the moment, and it's like you do things by yourself and you don't have anybody to kind of put you in a place, you know what I mean? It it
Hmm.
it kind of keep you motivated, and
Right.
he's doing like he puts out the thumb drive and thumbnail, and he puts it on Libsyn, and so everybody can listen to it, and he does other things, but it's just one of those things. I was like sometimes you feel alone and you're
Right.
wondering,
Yep.
like, you know what, who cares if I stop this stuff and then it doesn't really matter. But then I thought it does matter, because then I get the text that I send you. Isn't it funny how God knows?
Yeah, he does. And
And
encouragement comes at just the right time, doesn't it? I mean, it's
yeah,
just like, oh, I needed that today.
yeah, I get the text that about you and about how you've affected people, and I'm going, holy moly, I'm not going to quit. And don't worry
Yeah.
about that. I mean, to the regular listeners, don't worry, I'm not going to quit. But it was just one of those, you get in those down moments and you just question, if I didn't do this, I could do other things. So I'm going to get to it. I'll let you talk a second, and then I got something to say about that.
Okay. I think we all get into that spot where we're like, is what I'm doing worth it? Right. And so if we were to take it to like what we love to do, like I love to bow hunt. And so if it's all about just shooting that big buck every year, and that's my focus and my goal, what happens if that doesn't happen? Right.
Hmm.
It's hunting, it's not getting, it's not shopping. Uh, we're out in this animal's environment. Like those animals live there all year round. We just happen to be a visitor for the short time we get to be there. And so if my only goal is to come home with this animal that I'm after, what happens when I fail? Um, so if I can apply it to my life, I'm not just chasing this thing that's kind of ethereal or it's a hit or miss. I've got a purpose. God's using me. I know He's got a plan for my life, and this is part of it. And so that's pretty cool because I get to speak to people that I probably never. I don't know if I'll ever meet them, but I get to share with them kind of some life stuff that God's shown me, and none of what I've talked about really has anything to do with I didn't come up with that on my own. Like people either spoke that wisdom into my life or God showed that to me or I learned that somewhere. And I feel like it's important to pass those things on. One of the things that we do talk about is the next generation. So if we don't teach them, if we don't talk about these things, where will they learn it? And what are they going to learn if we're not teaching what we believe to be right? And I think that's a big issue in our culture today, to be honest. We need to be the ones who know where we're going and why we're going. That's also a valuable lesson. The what is never more important than the why. So we need to have the why all lined out so that we know exactly what it is we're going to do. So why I'm doing it is way more important than what I'm doing. And so if we can focus in on those things and allow this other stuff to just kind of fade into the static and focus, it changes everything for us. It gets us going. It pushes us. There you go. So that's where I'm at.
Wait, you know what? You said a lot in such a short amount of time. That's what you always do, though. Um, I it's interesting for one thing, because I was going to say, when I was in my deepest, darkest places, and I'm not saying they were deepest, darkest, when I in this funk this year, I remember our little chat one afternoon, and that surrounded me. And it's funny how little things can pull things out of you, and you say, you know what you told me, it's going to take time at that time. And now I know it's going to take time with this thing. If you want it to succeed, you keep pushing forward and you keep doing things. You don't give up, and it's in God's time.
Yep.
The, the other thing you said was find your why, which is very interesting, because We have an episode coming up with a lady that she had a couple health issues, and we were going to talk about that, and we never got to it because we were talking
Yeah.
about finding our why.
Yeah.
And that's interesting in itself too. And since we're talking about finding your why, do you follow Simon Sinek?
I I don't. I've seen some of his stuff, but I don't follow him.
Well, the other day he put out this post, and it was with this lady, and I cannot think of her name off the top of my head, but they're talking about, why do you want to live to 117? Why do people want to live so long? And it was a good little snippet, and I put it in my story. I'll probably do it again someday because it really affected me in some aspects, because it said we can take all the supplements we want, we can do everything we can to live a long life, but is it to scroll on our phone?
Right.
What time? More or less, it said, what time are we wasting now that we want to
Right.
live so long? Like, we need to start filling up that time that we are wasting with good things. And then if we do live to 104, 117, we think of all that time we have utilized
Yeah.
instead of wasting. And I just said scrolling, but I mean, there's other things that you can do. You can sit there and watch TV. You can do nothing.
Yep.
We aren't doing things to fill our soul. We're doing things to fill that time gap. Not.
We want to be entertained. We don't want to be bored. We don't want it, like, we don't like boredom. We got to have something that it's filler. It's static. It's exactly what it is.
It is, and it's funny because did we talk about this? I don't know if we did, but I read an article, is the downfall of society is, in this day and age, is because we are not bored anymore.
Uh-huh.
And because we're not bored, we're not thinking of other things to do and how to fix things, or how to create things, or we're being entertained by a meme that I just talked about. But it's one of
Hmm.
those things. But I'm
Yeah.
saying we aren't trying to better ourselves. We're trying to just take up time. So are we taking up time? And we could do another 24 hours to live, but are we taking up our time wisely, or are we just pining away to die?
Right.
I mean, really, I don't see I don't see any things that, for me, when I saw that, which affected me, and we're still talking about the funk, when I realized that I was wasting time doing things that didn't improve me or my relationship, or help me become a better person. I can't say it any better than that. But then I start, I'm more active because I was lazy. I'm reading more, and I do believe that reading is way better than watching a screen, because it doesn't really matter what you read. I have become this, I don't want to say this too bad, but I probably became a grumpy old man, and I just read self-help books. I mean, they're not self-help books, but I just read books and
Self-improvement.
self-improvement books. And it's just like,
Yeah.
I can't read nonfiction much anymore. It's
Right.
just tough for me. And there's some books I'm a big Jack Carr fan, so when his new books come out, I listen to them as I go down the road.
Right.
We were talking the other day. It's funny. I went back to my dad's and didn't even remember I went through towns,
Right.
because you're just focused on other things. And and
Yeah.
and we need to start looking around a little bit more, seeing, not looking.
It's an awareness, right? Like, that's what
Yeah,
we're talking about.
yeah.
Is I need to be more aware of of the moment that I'm in. That's one of the things that God's kind of shown me is, too often what we end up doing is we worry about the past. We worry about what's going on back there or what I've done, and I can't fix that. And it's a shadow, it's a ghost that follows me. Or we worry about where we're going to be and how we're going to get there and where the money's going to come from, and we start worrying about our future and we start having some anxiety over that. And the scripture actually tells us you can't change either one of those things. So just worry about what you have in front of you right now today. and keep taking that next step and keep taking that next step. So the way I look at that is I need to enjoy the journey that I'm currently on and not long for something out there that I'm not ever going to. You don't know if you're ever going to get to it, right? But I do
Hmm.
know what I have right now in front of me, and I know where that road is going. And it's not that I don't think about where this is all going to end up, but I don't want to. There's been moments, I guess, in what we do with the church that it gets so hectic. Um, my wife and I both said this, man, I just can't wait till we get past this. Like like once we get past this event or once we get past this thing, I just want to be past it. And I'm like, no, we can't do that because we're going to miss out on so many other little things because we're anxious about this area or this time that we're in that's so stressful because of this event or this thing that we're involved with. So I don't want to just shoot past it, right? It's the same way on any trip or journey like you're talking about. We can zone out and just, it's almost like ducking our head just to get through it so we can get done with whatever we're in the middle of the boring trip or the problem or whatever it might be. We're missing out on so much other stuff. The people that come across our path, the opportunities to build relationship, the moment when we get to learn in hardship, right?
Hmm.
So I've been having these conversations with my son about mental toughness, right?
Hmm.
We don't have I talked with you about this mental toughness?
No,
We don't become mentally tough because things are going our way.
no.
Mental toughness is developed when it is fallen apart, and you literally think your way through it, look at the problem, work on a solution when you're getting the absolute crud beat out of you, right? Like
Yep.
you a mental toughness, you have to be aware of what's going on around you when it all seems to be chaotic and falling apart. It's like a storm has hit and your plan is 20 miles behind you. You have got to figure this out. And you have choices in those moments. You can just stop right there and lay down, or you can turn into that storm and keep moving, right?
Yep.
That's one of the things that they talk about the difference between buffalo or bison and cattle. Cattle will turn their tail to the wind and go with the storm, which keeps them in the storm, or you can be like a buffalo and turn your head into the storm and walk towards it. And at some point, you're going to get to the backside of that storm. Well, it takes mental toughness to get through the darkest part of that. That doesn't come easy. That's something you have to have somebody. I most of the time you have to have somebody show you how to be mentally tough. Um, where it's not natural for us. It's really natural for us to give up and to run the other direction. Fight or flight. We're more flight than we are fight most of the time.
Well, that one part is true because when I get into those moments of needing mental toughness, if I'm by myself, sometimes I come home at lunchtime and I
Hmm.
just watch YouTube a little bit, and I'll admit that, but I go to Jocko's Good.
Yeah.
'Cause Jocko has the voice and he has the look, and I met him a few times, and so you know that it's real. And when he says good, you sh- you missed 10 layups, good. What are you going to do
Yeah.
about it? I mean,
Right.
since it's basketball season, you missed
Right. Yeah.
because now what are you going to do? You're either going to keep on practicing layups or you're going to quit. Good.
Yeah.
Fix it.
I, I
Fix
just
it.
I just saw I just saw a Rick Pitino clip where he is just absolutely crushing his St. John's players. Like it's halftime and he's like, "What is wrong with you guys? Do you not know how to dig in? What kind of life have you led where you have no adversity whatsoever, and when it shows up, you just quit?" No, I don't care if you miss a shot. Get back on freaking defense. Start playing the game. Have some mental toughness. What's wrong with you guys? And I just like he went off. And I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, who's teaching this stuff? Who helps you work through that? Yeah, you messed up. Good. What are you going to do? You fell down. Good. What are you going to do? You bruised your knee. You got mud on your face. You got embarrassed. Good. Now what are you going to do? And I don't think we have enough of that. And when we're talking about getting the funk out, this aspect of the funk is all right. You're in a funk, right?
Good.
It sucks. Good. What
Yeah.
are you going to do? Right?
It,
How are you going to handle that?
Well, I'm glad we came into this direction because you're right, because it was the good moment. It was, you're in a funk and you know it. Now what are you going to do? Good. Fix it. You go
Yeah,
fix it. Not people can't fix, they can help you fix some of the problems, but they can't fix you. You have to go into your head and you have to say, I'm not going to put up with myself anymore in the aspect of giving myself excuses.
right.
Good.
Yep.
Fix it.
Yeah.
Start.
Yeah. I have done the same thing for 2 weeks. I've done the same thing for a month, and I'm in this funk, and I can't get out of it. That's not true. Make a different choice. Like, stop doing the same thing over and over and over. Make a different choice. Do something different, right? And it doesn't have it. If we talk about degrees, it does not have to be a 180 or even a 90-degree swing. It's just a couple of degrees difference, and it'll take you out of that funk that you're in. Just make one thing different every day. Just that 1 degree at a time will get you where you need to go, right? Back on course. So
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I don't think we think that way. I don't think that's taught.
It is not taught anymore, and it drives me nuts at times because sometimes I feel like I am the old man because that's the way I was taught. I told a few people at work, "Am I that old man that's telling?" I don't want to go back and tell stories, but this is a story that, and it's not about toughness. It's more about. I don't know. I wouldn't even say loyalty. I don't know what is. But here's the deal. So I used to night calf, and when we got down to the end of, it's slowing down a little bit. So I would go into town because we checked every 2 hours, and you're getting to the end. So um, I went into town and I played a little pickup basketball in between checks,
Yeah.
and I stepped on a guy's foot and sprained my ankle. You know, and the next day when I went to the doctor, he said you should have broke it because it would be a lot better if you would have just broke your ankle because
Right.
this is a tougher
It's going
sprain
to take a
to fix.
long time for it to heal. It's a high
It
ankle
is.
sprain. You're in trouble.
It is. But I went back and I night calved all night long and gimped around. And then I went to the doctor that whenever I went to the doctor, morning or afternoon, and I went night calved that night and I gimped around.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying everybody has to do that, and I'm not calling myself a hero for doing such things, but that's what was expected of you. Unless you were dying, you were expected to be there if you could. And there's a lot of other things. I mean, I did stupid things. Had I had some things happen, and I had 25 stitches in my leg, and I knew the next night I was going to go play softball. So
Right.
I worked that
Yeah.
day because I am not going to say I can not work, but I can go play ball or whatever.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I broke my hand, and the next week I'm going elk hunting. I'm still going
Right.
elk hunting,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to take off work because I broke my hand. I'll figure it out. And
Yeah.
maybe that's the deal. And maybe that's what I should be talking about when we were saying good and trying to fix it. Good is trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's about problem solving, right? Like this problem's been created in my life. How do I work through that? What do I do to be successful in this area when it's against me right now? Like I'm handicapped, I'm down an arm, I'm down an ankle, I'm physically hurting. What do I do? And there's some mental toughness that's got to come into that. And it like I know some tough dudes, they're just physically tough, right? Like wow, they're just but they don't always have that mental capacity to get through some of the other things in life. So there's this. It's not just about being physically tough. It's about having that mental um, focus to be able to work through this stuff and to go, all right, this is against me. I've got to figure this out. Like, and I do have that kind of confidence in myself. I'd say 90% of the time. You know what? We'll figure it out. It's a problem. It's not a big problem. We'll figure it out. We can figure this out. And uh, I had to learn how to be that because I could be just like I think as a young man, especially a teenager, I was a victim card player, like well, I can't do this because of that, and he did this, and the coach is doing that, and the teacher doesn't like me, and you're carrying a chip around, and you're angry at everybody, and that gets you nowhere. And so it took people to help me to get mentally where I needed to be, and to help me to see that there's a next level to this, and it's a mental level. It's not just about being physically there, but mentally there. I think that we have to work on being emotionally tough. That doesn't always jive in our culture, an emotional toughness. And I'm not saying that I don't have emotions, but I do know how to control those. I do know anger is an emotion, just like sadness and crying would be connected to an emotion. So we've got to be able to be self-controlled and self-disciplined. That there's an emotional toughness that needs to take place. So I think it's in all of those levels as we look at it. How can I attain that? What do I have to do to get there? And it's the hard times. It's the crucible of life that we go through that helps to create that refinement and that toughness in us. And then we need to learn how to teach that to the next generation. Um, it, and I think you can teach it, but it's better to be there for that person who's going through that tough time because you have the experience of going through a tough time. Does that make sense?
Well, like I said, you make a lot of sense and you have a lot of wisdom that, I, but I
I
wrote
want to
this.
know how we can pass that on. That's where I'm at in my life. Like, how do I pass that on to the next generation of men? Because I think that's where it's needed. Anyway, you said you had something you wrote.
Well, that's where I was going with this because you say, how do I pass it on? And this is what Don't Die Rusty's about, is passing it on.
Yeah.
That's one thing. And I think when I was younger, you were talking about this, and I think we need to learn. I always said that I would rather take physical pain. Like I could
Hmm.
I'd run 100 miles or get into a box. Well, at the time, I would have lasted 30 seconds. I probably would have lasted 2 minutes with Mike Tyson because I ran. He could never caught me. But anyway, but I mean, what I'm saying is, I would have rather got beat up by Mike. Beat up. I would have beat myself up. I would rather have the physical pain than the mental pain. And I think
Hmm.
it takes certain people like you, and now you have helped me find my mental toughness by believing. You've educated me where I had questions, we'll just say, on faith. If we don't give people questions to ask of themselves, like, I'm not afraid anymore. You've given me confidence because I really don't care if you come and ask me a question, I'm going to tell you the truth because that's all I have.
Right. Yep.
You know what I mean? I can't.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie to you and say I'm going to try to say you went through this thing, Rick. How did you fix it? And I'm going to tell you the truth. You may not want to listen to everything I have to say all the time, but if you pick up one thing, and it's like I said, I read all these books. It's not that I'm holding everything in my head that I'm
Right.
reading, but if I get that one sentence or if I get that one chapter that hits me hard, I can make myself better. Then I can read another book. But to get mentally tough, we have to show and have confidence within ourselves. And I think that's a problem with a lot of people these days, is they don't have the confidence to stand up. They don't want to be. I'm saying, like, you're the manager that has to ask you're an assistant manager, we'll just say, and you have to keep on asking the head manager what to do because you don't want to make a decision because you don't want to uh, be wrong and get yelled at. You're a basketball player. I just missed a shot, and now I'm going to get taken out of the game instead of
Right.
I miss a shot, but
What do I got to do to get the ball back?
exactly.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to have confidence within yourself. You know what? I missed a shot, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to make it. And I don't care who is out there in the world here, listen to this, and you can argue with me on social media or wherever else, but the GOAT is Michael Jordan, and he missed shots.
Absolutely. You're right. He missed a lot of shots, right? Like,
but he made a lot too.
and he'll tell you, like he'll tell you even today, he didn't learn from all of the victories and all the made shots. He learned from the misses and the losses. That's what
Mm-hmm.
made him a better player. The victories were a result of his failures. And if we can come to terms with that, right?
Yep.
If I had a football coach that used to tell me, he'd go, Love, one time's a mistake, twice is a habit, and I'm here to help you break habits.
Well, I love that.
So right? So understanding that, like, are we going to learn from falling down? And the truth is, we might have to fall down a couple of times before we learn the lesson. But are we going to learn from that? What can I take away from what is perceived as a failure? Like that was one of the wisest things that I've ever been given is the freedom to fail. And it took place while I was there in Spearfish. I sat with a counselor, and he talked to me about some of the stuff that was going on in my job and where it wasn't working. And he goes, "So you're failing?" And I'm going, "Well, I haven't lost yet. You know, it's that old adage, I didn't lose, I just ran out of time." But I had to come to terms with the fact that there are times where I lose. There are times where I don't meet my goal. That's a fail. That I failed. And what am I going to take away from that? Can I admit I failed there? Okay, what do I have to do now to not allow that to happen again? I think most people, and I think you're like this, Rick, we don't like to fail. It leaves a bad taste in our mouth, man. Like we just don't like it. And so, what do I have to do to change that? What do I have to do different the next time? And it does go back that, well, I can't keep doing the same thing because that's bringing me to the same spot. It's Einstein that's credited for that, right? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different outcome. That's the definition of insanity. That's insane to think that I can do A, B, and C over and over and over and then get a different result. So I have to choose to change something in the equation. I have to choose that.
And I agree with you there. And I think that I was never one I hated failing in anything, And I probably was overconfident in things, but not, I can't really say I was arrogant, I guess, because I thought I was good. I think that's more the term of arrogance. And I didn't, now that I look within myself, I was good at things and I was arrogant, and I didn't realize that you can be confident but not cocky. You can be
Right.
confident but not arrogant. And I think I was arrogant with myself. And I think that when I took a loss, and you were there on the probably the biggest loss of my life
Uh-huh.
in losing a marriage. But here's the deal. You helped me, like, it's one of those things where you have a sponge of arrogance and it's full. And the when the when the bad thing happens and you lose, the sponge got just ringed and it's dry.
Mm-hmm.
Then you talk to the right people and you start learning about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And slowly the moisture starts getting back into that sponge. And you learn to be confident within yourself, but not arrogant. And you learn confidence is also giving back to the people that have helped you, but also to the people around you.
Right.
And the sponge keeps on getting full, and it gets full. So sometimes you have to probably wring that sponge out a bunch of times, but I'm telling you, the last time that this is a long time that I feel that, like I said, I got to that funky stage. I think it only like lost a little moisture because I was losing
Hmm.
confidence within myself. But now, now that I start getting more confidence of going and doing the things that I'm doing now, you know, I, I also think like, I don't, I don't have a places to go shoot indoors like I used to, and I love shooting indoor archery. I don't have things that, and it was also a people thing, like we
Right.
talked. And
Yep.
you knew I always knew I was decent. I wasn't great, but I could keep, it's like skiers talk. I could keep up with you. I might win some days and I might lose the next, but I was confident in my abilities. And, I think you get into the funk because you start losing confidence in like I said, I was losing confidence in my abilities in a lot of different places because I wasn't that 25, 30-year-old that could go climb
Right.
10 mountains and
Yep.
find that one animal that I wanted to hunt, we'll say, or do other things. I have to change how I do things and stay confident and still win.
There's moments I think we go through where we start to have self-doubt. And I like, I don't think that's necessarily unhealthy to have a little bit of self-doubt because it causes you to re-examine yourself. And I think we periodically need to be able to re-examine who we are and what we're about and where we're going. And it's just like these little course adjustments in life.
Hmm.
I believe arrogance, like that sponge, let's use that analogy. I love that. Um, Arrogance, and when I'm an arrogant person, I'm wringing moisture out of other people because I can't produce that myself.
Yeah.
But with confidence, the confidence, the moisture is something that I'm producing because I know who I am. I know what my abilities are. I know where my weaknesses are, and I am not necessarily comfortable with that, but I'm at peace with those things, knowing that I can do this, I am capable, I can learn and grow and strengthen some of those weaknesses, and then I can be smart enough to put people around me that will help me who are strong where I am weak. So once we get to that point, that's where that confidence begins to flow out of us. It's not something we have to draw from someone else. It's it's within me, and that's honestly intimidating for a lot of people when they're around a person who has that kind of confidence. It can be intimidating, but it can also be very attractive because people want to have that same confidence in themselves. And so when we can build confidence in somebody and say, look, this is what I see.
Yep.
Trust me, man. Like you can do this. You are capable. You have this ability. I can't do what you can do. Like that's pretty cool. And to be able to help people see that, right? I do believe we've got a call. So finding your why is huge when it comes to this confidence. Like, why am I doing this? Well, here's why. Okay, what is it that I need to continue to do? This is where I'm confident and I can do this. And I need to be okay with going, Rick, I don't know what to do here, man. Would you help me? That I don't think that's a lack of confidence. I think that shows confidence, right? For me to come to you and ask for help. That's not something we're taught, especially as men. You're supposed to take care of it yourself. You're
Yep.
supposed to get it done. You don't need anybody else. Well, no, that's not how it's supposed to be. Like it's just we're just not wired that way. Um, that's a lie, I think, that gets perpetuated. And so when we can come together and go, we're better together than we are separately. When we come to that belief and begin to work that way, you will see confidence start to bloom in the relationships that are a part of all of that. And that's I think where it is almost perfect, right? It's
Yep.
unity.
Yep. And it's I think we start surrounding ourselves with those people that help us build those confidence because we can use the sports analogy, like when you're on a team or you can be in a military or wherever you want to be in a team, sometimes the talk within the camaraderie of a team, like, you know everybody, you can have stars on a team, but you have to have the team to make the star.
Yep.
And I think that then we get older, we get out of the sports, but we learn from sports that it's a team effort. And then when we start surrounding ourselves with those people that can help us make us better, that we aren't afraid to ask questions and they aren't afraid to ask questions. And when we start putting ourselves out there, so the people we don't even know who we're talking to right now can
Right.
start asking questions, and they can ask questions of both of us, or they can ask questions of who's ever in their inner circle. But
Right.
when you can start asking those questions and saying, you've got to the point where you say, good, I've been in this bad place, good, now how am I going to get out? And
Right.
you go ask that partner, how am I going to get out of this? Can you help me? And I don't know, it could be your wife, it could be your best buddy, or it could be a new person that you don't even know that you feel that you can talk to. But as long as we can go do that and get out
Right.
of our funk, because I'm a firm believer in that, and that's why you and I have been friends for so long, is because you I I mean, we talked about this a year ago now, but you were that friend that walked in, that we were acquaintances at the time, and I still had belief that I could talk to you, and we have become friends. And if you can find that person, I mean, um, we we have become a society where we love to see the downfall of men,
Mm.
and we love to talk about the downfall of men. The problem is, when we love to see this and talk about it, we don't look within ourselves and say that could be us.
Right.
And
Yep.
when we stop caring, that's the problem with the gossip or anything else. If you're a big gossiper and people love to gossip, and they start talking, they, the if you're the gossiper, people are going to gossip about you too.
Right.
So why don't
Yep.
we help these people? Why don't we say, you know what? You have had a downfall. I'm going to help you out. I mean, if they ask for it or whatever. I'm not saying I can't help. You can't help everybody if they don't want help.
Right.
But I'm talking like,
Well,
and everybody,
look,
go ahead.
well, I want to be intentional about putting myself in places where I am going to impact someone,
Mm-hmm.
or where I have the opportunity to maybe impact somebody. Um, I've been going to triggers for how long? Like a couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
2 or 3 years. And you were in and out, and you were working there, and I got to know Justin and Ange really well, and just spending time. And I never did come in there and go, "Oh yeah, I'm the preacher over here at the church, and you need to be in church." And it's
Yep.
just, I didn't feel like that was genuine. I didn't feel like that's what people needed, but I did want to place myself in a position where if you needed me, I'm there,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I still attempt to do that. Like, I want to put myself in places where I can develop relationships and help people if they need or want my help. You know, um, I think this is a positioning, Rick. Uh, don't die rusty. It's a mindset, and
Mm-hmm.
there's a mental toughness to that. Don't die rusty. Like, don't just sit in your lazy boy and rust away, right? Get out
Mm-hmm.
there and wear yourself out. And so this is a platform, this is a positioning in order to be able to help people um, move forward. And the problem we have is that we all grow up in a certain environment. And I think I mentioned this before. Um, the environment I grew up in, I just automatically assume you grew up in a similar environment. And it's not true. Your environment, the way you grew up, was totally different than the way I grew up. And so I come away from my environment with only knowing how to operate the way I was taught in my environment. And we get a lot of people who are doing it, and they're caught in this cycle that's toxic. They're caught in this cycle that's unhealthy, and they don't know how to get out because they don't know any other way. Well, this platform gives us an opportunity to share, to grow together, and then to offer that opportunity for others to grow and to hear there's a different way. You can be better. There is a better way. You might not see it right away, but give it a chance, man. Give it a shot. Here's some things that we can do. Here's how we can apply some of this stuff. Here's what we want to do to help you. You got questions? Ask them. If we don't have the answer, we're going to help you find it. Like, I think that that's what's valuable about what is going on here through this podcast is that people don't even really have to ask the question because you're already asking the questions for them at times. And they get to come here and go, you know what? I've really been thinking about that. Like, I get into a funk right after Christmas. I don't know why, and I don't know how to get out of it. I don't like it. I just find myself there. Okay, well, you asked the question tonight, and so how can we help them get the funk out? It's all of that stuff that we've been talking about. The conversations you have with your guests that you bring on. It's about giving people a perspective. So, and I think I've talked about this too, but I feel like it's important to repeat. We have a perception in life that's clouded by our own experiences and our own lenses, but it's not true perspective. Perception is what we see from our side of the window, and that window could be cruddy and fingerprints all over it, and we get a false view of what that really is that's going on out there. So what we have to have is enough people who will give us the truth that it clears up and gives us a true perspective of what is happening in life and what life is really about. Because it gets clouded up by all this other stuff, our hurts, the way we hurt people, our losses, the way we've taken and stolen from others, what's been stolen from us, what we've never learned, all those things begin to impact our perception. And we need people that will give us perspective, true perspective. And that's truth. Perspective is. Perception is just my view of it. I want to know the truth. So
Yeah,
this gives perspective.
yeah, because I'm curious all the time. I truly am. I like to ask people's opinions of things that from. I like to ask the same question to 4 or 5 different people because it's
Right.
amazing how you get so many different perspectives from 4 or 5 different people. And that's why, I mean, I love having the Ricktastics on so we get Ashley's perspective and Ricky's perspective. And like I said, I was being selfish tonight because I just wanted to, we haven't had a conversation of our own, but I know that every time I get to have have a conversation with you, that I learn something. And that's what some of those texts were saying too, is like they love to hear you talk. And maybe it's because, I'll ask a question and you come out with this wisdom that Rick doesn't even think of. But when you put it in perspectives, you put it in perspectives that the common person, and I'm saying I'm a common person too, that can understand things. We aren't trying to go above and beyond and think we're smarter than somebody else. We're trying to put it in a perspective where everybody can understand. And I mean, I follow a few things philosophically, and it's funny that how people, like some philosophers, modern day, I'm talking,
Right.
feel that they are above people. If we come from middle America and we can't be a philosopher, well, that's baloney. If there's
Hmm.
some of the best philosophers drove cattle up from Texas to Montana, and Gus McCrae was one of the best philosophers we'll
Right.
ever meet.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
And I think people lose the value of real people. And like, I just see there are so many people that have some good advice that people don't hear about or listen to. And I was actually talking to uh, one of my workers today and it's fun because I get to have conversations with him, and he's so open-minded. We go back and forth, and we were working on something, and I and we were talking about this stuff. But I said, my perfect job would be to put out some fires, keep people's spirits up, and try to put, which is interesting because I'm talking about Kelly Lovelace as I'm telling this stuff, but like, put out a few fires, give some inspiration, maybe give some thoughtful advice to some people so they become a better version of them, which helps out the business in itself because we have a good thought about this stuff. Or I used to talk to a guy every once a week. We'd sit down and talk about God, about work, about life for an hour and before I left. It was like a check-in thing. And he's not there anymore. And Pete Miller, if you're listening, it's you. So but he, it would help both of us out.
Yeah.
And I try to put that in perspective, but I think in today's society, like I keep on going back to, we have been taught to be different. And I see things that it's not about bettering yourself. It's about beating people, and uh, it's about finances. Because I talked to Lindsay, like I said earlier, Lindsay Ulrich, and she had a stroke, like I said, and couldn't.
Hmm.
But she said also, when I gave her the question, "What's the best life for Lindsay?" She said, "It's about my make help having my kids be better, like see what she's done, so they can be good themselves, more or less, is where I took it."
Yeah.
And she realized, because she said her mother-in-law died early, that her mother-in-law says, "Do that stuff." Do that
Right.
stuff. Go do it. And there are so many people these days that are afraid to go do it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and I actually had another conversation today because I have some that people seem to come and ask what my opinion would be, and I said, you know what? All I ever want for you guys is to be the best you.
Right.
And your decisions are based upon what would make you the best you. I can only help you be the best you if you want to be. And I always say, chase your dreams. Do chase your dreams and go on adventures while you can, or don't ever feel like you are trapped or set down. I mean, some of these, I'm saying, like, maybe another job opportunity. If you feel that that's better for you, go do it. Or if you want to move somewhere and try another job opportunity, go do it. I'm not here to say you can't, but I'm saying you're coming to me right now, so you're not burning a bridge. And
Right.
I like your work ethic. I think you'll be but go chase these dreams while you can, because how do we know that you're not going to make a difference over there or
Right.
over there? I mean, I left little town Rehite, South Dakota, and have lived in Spearfish for a long time.
Yeah. Right.
You know, where
Yeah.
I could have stayed and been comfortable, worked on ranches for the rest of my life, and never chased dreams.
There's a quote, and I'm trying to remember who it by. And what it says is, ships find safety in a harbor, but ships weren't made for the harbor.
Yep.
Right. And so you're like, man, we get so caught up in being in the comfort and safety of the harbor, but that's not what we were created for. I don't think anybody was created for that. I think that that's again a trap we fall into because this is comfortable and safe. And there comes a point when you're like, man, I was way too comfortable and safe all my life, and I missed out on so much because you're not meant to be in a harbor. That's not.
No.
Ships are made for the open sea, man, and we need to be able to do those things and chase after that stuff and enjoy those moments. But fear is what does that. What keeps us in the harbor? Fear of losing. For me, that's probably been the biggest obstacle in my life is fear of loss because I can't stand losing. Right? I don't want to lose. But the truth is, if I don't lose, I don't know what winning feels like. I don't know what it looks like to succeed if I haven't had a loss here and there. And everybody loses at some point. Everybody does. So The losses shouldn't be the thing that I fear, not making the attempt, right? The answer is always no unless you ask the question. If you don't ask the question, if I don't ask you, Rick, the answer is always going to be no in my mind. So it's better for me to ask you the question and find out if it's going to be a yes or not, and to take that chance. And we just don't operate that way because of fear. Um, I don't want to allow fear to stand in between me and my purpose. I want my purpose to be in between me and my fear. Does that make sense?
Oh, that makes sense.
When I'm
And
chasing my purpose and not worried about the fear, man, that's when I'm in my groove. And that's a God thing, right? That's a
oh, it
God
is.
thing.
Y-
So,
y- it is a God thing, and here's where you've just made me. You know how you shoot me with lightning when I'm looking at you on this video. It's like boom, it hits me in the head. But here's you you sailed your ship out of the harbor. Here it's because it's interesting. I just like I said, I get hit and I think about things. I'm trying when you were talking, I'm listening to you, but I'm also trying to put it in a perspective that I could voice how I feel. So
yeah,
you impacted me within a year and a half. What was it? Probably a year and a half before you went to Oaks or so. Would you say?
yeah. It's probably close to two.
So you impacted me for 2 years, and then your ship sailed out of the harbor.
Yeah,
And it strikes me funny here in the aspect that you have impacted me, and we are still talking. So I'm that little dinghy out there in the river, out on the ocean.
a dinghy.
and and you're the big old yacht rolling
Yeah,
around
I
by
know.
me. But here's if you wouldn't have sailed your ship out of the harbor and impacted other people in Oaks, North Dakota, you have grandchildren now because you
Yeah,
moved to Oaks, North Dakota, and you have people that count on you in Oaks, North Dakota. And if you would not have if you would have not taken that chance, because what you're doing is leaving little dinghies all the way across to Oaks, North Dakota.
well, I hope that's true. Like
You
that.
are. And now and you have more people listening to you that aren't even in these two states.
Right. Yeah.
And you're making impacts on them. So when you sailed out of the harbor in that aspect and took that chance, your grandkids are coming, your kids found love.
Uh-huh.
You're impacting the people that are there, and I'm just starting to, I feel, because not that I wasn't impacting people somehow before, but this is getting the word out.
Yeah.
And by having
Right.
guests like you on, who we are making a bigger impact. You know, like,
Yeah.
because you keep on talking to this dinghy.
Uh, well, we're two dinghies together. Dinghies. You're killing me, man. Uh,
But
it,
isn't it amazing what you've done? You don't think about those things though. I mean,
no, I don't.
you can't think about that you left the harbor and you didn't know when you left this town to go on an adventure to Oaks, and it had to be an adventure because everything's an adventure.
Yeah.
And you did not know that you're going to have grandchildren. You didn't know that you're going to have your kids married.
Yeah, I wasn't
You
thinking
didn't.
about any of that.
None. But think of the impact that you have now with what you have done. And that's
Yeah.
so when we start talking about funky, like getting the funk out, and if we would be more introspective and listen to these conversations like you and I are having, there's more. We can get funky and for just that little bit, but you know what? You've impacted people for miles.
Yeah,
So our little funk should be getting out of us, and we should be proud of where we are at.
yeah. For me, I'm my own worst critic, probably. You couldn't criticize me more than I'm going to criticize myself over things that I've done. I don't want to say I'm second guessing, but I go back and I look at situations and I wonder if there was a way that I could have maybe handled that better or done this different and the truth is, after a lot of maturing and growing up, yeah, there's some of those situations where I was a little bit more impulsive, where I should have kind of reined it in a little bit. But there are some where I'm like, no, I couldn't have handled that any differently. I really couldn't, as much as I thought maybe I should have. I couldn't. It had to be handled that way. And I'm learning that more and more as I get older, that God's given me a certain view of things and a certain perspective that is not mine, but helps me to see the bigger picture. And what I want to do is help people to see it, right? Like, let's get away from the tree that you're stuck on and let's look at this bigger picture that's around us and how you're impacting people and how you're affecting relationships and how community is either built or destroyed by what you're doing or not doing. And so to try to help people move that direction, right? And again, this is one of those platforms that I really enjoy having these conversations with you guys. And I do learn a lot listening to you guys and the feedback that is a part of this as we talk. Um, the other side of that is I want people to know. I want them, man, I want them to know they're not alone in this world. My passion in my heart is that, like, there is a God who loves you deeply and desperately. And he was so desperate, he came down here and died so that you would have an opportunity to be in relationship with him. You are never alone. He is just a prayer away. All you have to do is turn towards him. He's done the heavy lifting. So just look to him. The other side of that is you are loved. Like, not just you're not alone, you're loved. There are people that love you more than you can imagine. There's a God that loves you to a depth that we just don't quite understand. And the proof of that is Jesus. His outward expression of that is Jeremiah 29:11, where he says, I have a plan for you to give you a hope and a future, not to harm you, but to give you direction and give you something that you can look forward to. So that's the kind of God I want people to know that. I want them to know they're not trapped in the life that they're living. I want them to know that they can live a better life. Like, it can be better. It might get worse before we get there. And I think you've heard me say that, Rick. It's going to get better, but it's probably going to get worse before we get there. Right.
Yes, I am. Yeah, and I'll let you finish.
Well, no, that's it. I want
Well,
people to know that. That's my passion, that we can choose to live better. We don't have to be stuck and live this way that's toxic and dysfunctional and destructive. So,
talked about the Einstein theory. I mean, if you can't change things if you keep on doing the same thing, kind of
right.
thing.
Yep.
And here's the here's where I go with this is I I kept on thinking I was moving forward, and there's little things that would make me think of the past, and I kept on. It'd be relationship wise, or it would be like how I was more athletic and health, and I think it brought me down thinking I was trying to be that. And I was comparing, you're not supposed to compare yourself to people, but the problem is when you compare yourself to yourself, you
Right.
know what I mean? I'm comparing myself to years ago, not right now. And when I, when I, one day I can't remember I think I was driving down the road and I was aware of things and I'm looking at myself and I'm going, stop it right now. Stop comparing yourself to who you were and remember who you are. And
Right.
when I remembered it just struck me, and in like we were talking earlier, with that book, if you take one negative thing out and put one positive thing back in your life, and you keep on building that up and taking the negative, things will start coming together. And I thought,
Mm-hmm.
so for the last month, we'll say, since I've been trying to do that, and now I'm realizing that the comparison of who you were is way different than who you are, and I've become a better person, I think, in the mental part, and maybe I've lost a step in the physical part, but I can still do things. It's not like
Mm-hmm.
I said, I can keep up. So I think that has gotten me out of my funk, because
Yeah.
you can never compare. I'm not going to compare myself to Kelly. I'm not going to compare, but I think the worst comparison is, like you said, you look at you're harder on yourself than you are on anybody else. And
Uh-huh.
I was comparing myself to my younger version of me, physically, we'll say,
Right.
and that was dumb. That was
Right.
dumb of
Yep.
me to do. And now I'm more at peace. I'm a better person because I was searching,
Right.
and it's funny. I used to have that search necklace. Now I have the Don't Die Rusty necklace on,
Yeah.
because I thought I was always searching for something. Now I'm just not going to die rusty.
Right.
And I found within myself that, that oxidation, I'm not going to die from the inside out, and
Yep.
I'm going and and I'm going to do everything in my power to be the best person and leave a mark on this world that is good.
Mm-hmm.
And if people can utilize that into a good manner, then that's awesome. But if they can't, at least I gave my best. And
Yeah.
that's the good.
Yeah. So this is the the perspective part of it, right? Moving from the perception of physically 15 years ago, I was on fire, man. I was the best physical shape I could have ever been in. I was just like going. Um, the perspective is we are not the same people we were 20 years ago. And that's across the board. Now, maybe we'd like to be physically better and closer to that, but the truth is, who we are today is miles ahead of where we were, just in the way we think, in the way we see life, in the way we impact people, the way we invest our time. Right? You think about all the time
Hmm.
that you spent chasing things that, you know, they, I thought they mattered. I thought it was important,
Yep.
but it sure took a lot of time away from things that I now see are more important, right?
Oh, definitely.
So I can say that about me, and I believe I can say that about you. We're not the same guy. We're not the same people we were 20 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, even a year ago, right? Like we've matured and we've come to this place where um if I can accept it, right?
Yep.
I am in my 50s. I'm in my mid 50s, and I'm not physically what I used to be by any stretch. I'm still capable.
Yep.
I am still capable, but I'm not physically what my mind is way better than I was. I would say my way of thinking, maybe even my mental toughness
Hmm.
is degrees better than it was when I was that age because some things came really easy back then. Now we got to work a little bit harder on some of that stuff.
And that's where I think we get in this world where we don't give people second chances.
Right. Yep.
And I'm gonna well, we got a few more things to talk about here, but I'll tell you some of the other things I took out of my life is I take out the social media part, where if I'm seeing uh, politics used to get me really down,
Hmm.
and it I've started taking that out of my life. I started turning off the news a little bit more and watching the weather maybe, but
Right.
not that I don't keep up with
The
the
geopolitical
world.
scene that's going on. Right.
Yeah, not that I don't keep up with that stuff, but that stuff was bringing me down, and because we don't need the infighting on social media or whatever. I don't need that part. So that's
Too
a
much
headache for
drama.
me. Yeah, I only I only take so many ibuprofens a day, and I mean, and I'm just kidding. But what I'm saying is, when you start realizing what is tearing you down, you start taking it out. So take that
Right.
negative thing out, put another positive thing in. So, I mean, those are little things. I mean, help people put a smile on their face. I saw, and I'm going to do this. I don't know when I'm going to do it, but I saw this thing where people were cutting in line at the grocery store.
Yeah.
So I'm going to cut, but they would cut in line, and they'd kind of watch, and they would only have like 2 or 3 items themselves. And then they'd walk and they'd cut in line, and people were getting upset. But then they would pay for the person behind them's groceries.
Right. Right.
And I thought, wouldn't that be fun to do? Just a
Yeah.
few, because what happened was, I was watching this. What happened was, and that person said no, 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 and then they did, and the person that they bought the groceries for bought the person's groceries behind them. And
Yeah.
all I'm saying about this is think of fun things to do good for people.
Right.
Like they were astonished that they were buying their groceries. Some people, think about, you don't know what kind of day somebody's having. If you did that, and that might turn, when we talk about second chances, that might turn a second chance around right there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
I
it,
think when we can come up with ideas on how to bring people together and unify them, and that's a unifier, to do a good deed for somebody just because you want to.
yeah.
No one's holding a gun to your head. No one's making you do it. They don't have your wife held hostage somewhere. You've made this decision. Like, I want to do this for somebody, and this
Mm-hmm.
looks like a good person I can do that for.
Hey,
Hopefully, it makes their day and it changes the world just a little bit. Just that, like I said earlier, 1 degree. If I can move it 1 degree
yeah.
away from where it is towards something better, I want to do that. So.
So anyway, well, we're you and I have been talking for an hour and a half here, just about. So I don't know if you can hear this. I was going to play this for you. Maybe you could bust out a move or something. Play that funky music.
Music, yeah. White boy.
Yep. That was Leif Garrett.
Yeah, that's back in the day, bro. You're dating us now. You're putting a date on us.
so so in ending this, instead of the good life, I mean, we ask that all the time. What's a good question to ask tonight?
Oh, you're gonna ask me to ask the question, huh?
Oh,
Um,
well, I'll throw it your way.
let's see. Um, where do you find your? I don't know how to say it. It's not peace. Like it's fulfillment. What fulfills you, Rick? Like what is it that you're just like, yep, I'd like to marinate in this moment for just a little while. I feel fulfilled and at peace in this moment. So what fulfills you?
What what fulfills me is to. I was fulfilled on. I mean, I have a great wife that gives me peace, and that fulfills me, that I don't have to ask any questions. I don't have to worry about one thing except, I mean, health or whatever, you worry about, but I don't have to worry mentally. So when you're mentally tough, when we talk about
Mm,
mentally tough, that's one worry I do not have.
right.
But what fulfilled me, and this is a this happens. I'm not saying it doesn't happen a lot, but it happens about every Saturday when I climb Bear Butte.
Mm,
when things all come together. I had clouds below me. I had sunrise, and I had oranges. I had pinks. I had blues.
Yep.
And I'm sitting there, and you aren't going to believe this, but there was just a breeze. There wasn't a wind.
Right.
And, and it took me a long time to get to the top on Saturday, not because, and I felt good, but I stood there and I looked at the beauty, and I understood what was around me, and I understood what was surrounding me. And sometimes I feel bad that I'm the only one that gets to see this, but then other times I don't. But it was like God was filling my soul.
Yeah.
And I was talking about the funky stuff, but in honesty, it was filling my soul up because I was seeing this creation ahead of me of the day. I was seeing the clouds were moving, and you can never capture any of this. I mean, I got pictures, but you can never capture the whole thing with a picture. And,
Yeah.
and I had a friend that said, I said I take the picture in the morning, but I took the pictures on Saturday, as I always do. But I sat there and watched in wonder, and I sat there and just quiet, and the wind's blowing through by me. I wasn't really blowing. I had a stocking cap on, so I wasn't blown by my ears, but
Hmm.
the breeze was there on my face, and the sun's coming up, and I'm starting to warm, and those things fill my soul up with energy and fill me, because how many people and how many things in this world do you get to just sit there and wonder? And you know that the sun's going to come up tomorrow, but how many people see it? How many people feel it? How many people enjoy it? And and the most astonishing thing was, I was all by myself. I mean,
Hmm.
usually there's people that start coming up when I'm coming down. But the whole journey that I took on Saturday, and it was a beautiful day. That's what surprised me the most. I kept on looking to see if there's anybody down by my vehicle as I'm coming down the mountain. And I just felt like, thank you. You've given me a, a morning
Yeah.
where there was no questions. I'm I'm taking in this whole site, and you have given me, I'm talking about God, you've
Yeah.
given me something to put a smile on my face and fill my soul. I'm saying the sun rises on the perfect day that you don't get, because you don't get those every day. I mean,
Right.
I can go out and take a picture of a sunrise every day, but the perfect, I
Yeah.
mean, you get maybe, if you're lucky, 30 of those a year, if you're lucky. I mean, for me
Yeah.
personally, to take it in.
Right. Right.
It, that's when you take in the moment. It's the moment, and you got to realize that you're in that moment. And I've been
Right.
telling people to realize you're in that moment, and I
Yeah.
realized this is something big. To me, it was. I mean, other people may not have seen it, but it was really big to me. So the
Yeah.
to fulfill me is to have those peaceful mornings where it just feels so good. Well, how about
Yeah.
you, Kelly?
Um, I'd say mine are really similar, Rick. As you're talking, I just remember there's this movie that I really like. It's The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, and he's chasing down this photographer because he needs to find this last picture for the magazine, the last magazine that's ever going to go out. And I can't remember the name of the magazine that he works for. I think it's Life, but I'm not positive. And he finally catches him up in the Himalayas. This guy's a daydreamer. So um, anyway, he's experiencing life for the first time because everything else was experienced through the photographs that he received. So he's caught the guy, and they're trying to take this picture of a snow leopard up in the Himalayas, and it's hard to get. It's a hard picture. It's like a lifetime picture for this photographer, and he gets it. Like he gets the perfect that leopard's in the right spot, and he's got Walter Mitty over his shoulder going, "Are you going to take the picture?" And he goes, "No, this one's for me." Right? Like
Yep.
that moment is his, and he's not going to share that with the world. That's his moment. And
Yep.
I have some moments like that it's just like it's not um it's not God is speaking anything specific into my heart in that moment. But he's speaking to me. You know what I mean?
That's exactly what I was trying to say.
When I go out on the in the Badlands, and I there's not very many moments that I get to be alone out there because I'm with my son-in-laws, and we kind of go out in pairs. There's moments when I do go out on my own, and there's just something about that environment, whether it's
Hmm.
a sunrise or a sunset or uh, watching, just being there and soaking all of that vastness in and the beauty that and my thought is, man, who gets to do this? Like who think of the millions and millions of people that have never been there, never experienced that. There's that moment. There's a fulfillment, right? There's a peace that goes deep into my soul, and it nourishes me. I think God used that to nourish my soul. And I love those moments, man. I cherish them. I don't want to lose them. I look forward to the next moment, and I want to be aware of the whole experience, but it's those moments. So it's not much different than you, I don't think. The outdoor, what God's done for me through my love for the outdoors and being in his creation is way better than any movie. It's way better than any TV show or book that I read. It's just like it's big. It's important. And I want others to experience that. Like when I come away from that, I'm like, how can I help them experience what I just experienced? And I think it takes an awareness, and it takes time, right? For
Hmm.
others to grab a hold of it, for the world to slow down and soak up every second. It's almost like you can hear, in a way, the clock ticking as it just floods over you. And I want to marinate in that moment. I want to stay right there as long as I can. Um, with an understanding that I can't stay there forever, but I want that moment, and I want to continue to experience those moments. So I think that's a big part of what God does for me through those moments, through that time that I spend out in what He gives us. And it happens at different times. Like the Badlands is one of those moments. This year I was in Iowa and shot a pretty nice buck, and when I tracked him and I just sat down next to him and I just wanted to soak up that moment with uh, the squirrels moving and the birds chirping and
Hmm.
just that moment, right? And it wasn't the fact that I had this pretty nice buck laying next to me. There was this moment that just spoke volumes, and just so it is those things, and I cherish them. I want to share them if I can, and then there's some that I'm like, no, that one's for me. That one right there, that one's for me. So
And I will agree with you. I like that, what you just said, because that's kind of where I was saying. There's days that I like sharing with everybody else, and there's days, and I, like I said, I took the pictures, some of the pictures, but they didn't get to see all of what I saw because I didn't take all the pictures that I
right,
could have taken.
Yeah.
but it was for me sitting there, standing there actually. Oh, I sat down too, but just watching. And you think about this, you think about the millions and millions of people that are waking up in asphalt or city smells, and they don't get to
Yeah.
smell the pines, the sage, the frost, the light.
Right.
If there was a light rain, I love
Yeah,
the smell of rain. You know what I
I
mean?
do. Yeah.
And people don't stop to smell it, for one thing, like you said. And
Mhm.
and maybe I'm trying to say, see the things, don't just look. And
Right.
let's. So anyway, no, I like that we have the similar things. I figured that's what fills me and makes me happy. And
Yeah.
joy, I would say, more than happy, it makes me joyful
Yep.
to
I agree.
have those moments for me.
Yeah.
So,
And like those are logged in the back of my mind, and I have pictures, but really they're logged in the back of my mind, and I can kind of go through my little um, mental Rolodex
mm-hmm,
and remember the memory. And sometimes it's like you said, sage. I'll smell sage, or I'll have the smell of fresh rain, and it takes me back to that
mm-hmm,
memory, right? It kind of plugs into that memory, and you're just like, oh, can't wait for the next one.
yeah.
I'm storing up memories. So yeah, that's
It's
that's a big
interesting.
deal.
It is, because it's interesting that our memories are scratch and sniff too.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah,
That
for
you
sure.
know, because you can have the worst. And this is the other part about being funky too. I mean, it takes you back to funk. Is you can have that funky time, but there's those little smells and those little things. Like, I feel like deja vu sometimes, and
Right,
like, and those good memories come back and start filling you back up. That's what
right.
I was talking about. Feel those positive, keep on putting positive back in you, and
Yeah,
that's some of
absolutely.
it too. So those memories for you, those are good too.
Yeah,
So,
they're there, right? They're in the old noggin, and
yes.
it's good to have them because there's days you need them, right? And I'm just amazed at how they can come back from a sound or a smell or you know some
Yep.
little thing, and it's just a reminder. You know what I'm stressing over is really not that big a deal. It's just
Ex-
not, right? Like that's a big deal. What that memory helped me to get my mind right. So,
exactly. So, well, I'm gonna let you go so your battery doesn't run out here.
all right, I appreciate it.
But
Yeah,
thank you so
Rick.
much, Kelly.
Yeah, I love talking with you, man. I love you. You know that, and
Eh,
I just appreciate your friendship and everything you're doing. And I want you to know that uh, you've talked about my impact through this. I wouldn't have this opportunity if it weren't for you, and so I appreciate the opportunity, man. And uh, as much as you know, I believe in you. I appreciate the fact that you believe in me, and that's that's what this is about. So having those bonds and building off of them and inviting people in, like, come be a part of this. So
Well, thank you,
yeah,
Kelly. I mean, like, you're a permanent member of the Ricktasics, that's for sure.
the Rick Tactics.
And you're a permanent friend too. And I just love having these conversations every time because I learn something. And I I appreciate the times that we get to spend these times together. I really
Yeah,
truly appreciate. And these fill me up too. That fills the soul up, because I think about things, and you've helped me out. So thank you so much too.
well, that's Proverbs 27:17. It's as iron sharpens iron, so one sharpens another, and so we're able to sharpen each other through these moments, and hopefully other people get sharpened at the same time. So it's a good
That's
deal.
that is so. Well, thank you so
All
much for
right,
being on,
yeah,
man. I
yeah, for
really
sure.
appreciate it. So anyway, don't die, Rusty fans and nation. Keep chasing your dreams and being the best you. Fill your souls up and don't die, Rusty.
Don't die rusty.
Thank you for listening to the Don't Die Rusty podcast with your hosts, Rick Hanson and Ricky Bruley. The Don't Die Rusty podcast is written and produced by Rick Hanson and Ricky Bruley. You can find us on Instagram and on Facebook at Don't Die Rusty. You can rate and review this show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You might find your review read on a future episode. Got a question for the Ricks? Send us an email at don'tdierusty@gmail.com. It too could be featured on a future episode. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Don't Die Rusty podcast wherever fine podcasts are downloaded.